Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back. It is of the utmost importance to realize that everything we do in spiritual works is not more so contingent upon the physical attributes that's been gathered or the physical act itself, but more so the effect of what those physical act has on something else, which is you, the spirit, the soul. You're simply taking the animal portion of you. Animal has nothing to do with a derogatory term. Animal is just relating to an organism or life form that is animated. But more particularly when it comes to the organization of biology on Earth, as far as we're aware of, animal is one of the kingdoms when it comes to the formation of life. But nonetheless, know that when spiritual works are done, it is more so to touch something more substantive rather than what you physically observe with your five senses. The real you is what you are communicating with. This thing called the physical body is just a part of the soul that exists on a physical world. The body is not separate from the soul. It is the same thing as the soul, expressing itself in this physical dense world. Just as much as this portion of your soul is expressing itself in this physical world, a larger portion of it exists in another world that is far more significant, or minimally as significant as this physical world. Again, you, the soul, exists in many places at once. Some might call that energy. In scientific terms, it's referred to as infinite. Whereby if you observe some type of scientific formulas and whatnot when it comes to how mass and energy works, there was always a particular formula for infinite. That portion is what you are connected to. This physical body is a portion of you, the soul, that is expressing itself here in this physical realm. But one thing many fail to realize is just because they are desensitized to physical activities day in, day out, they consume food, they engage in copulation, they get physical sensation from the air, temperature, etc., etc. The mind that has a tendency to acclimate itself to that which it consistently experiences causes most people to think the limitation of existence is what they physically observe. Without realizing that they are just a very small portion that exists here in the physical world. When you then begin to do spiritual works, what you are doing is you're strengthening that string, that connection between the you here and the you everywhere else. That is the power and significance of spiritual work. The more you engage in spiritual work, the quicker you are able to create your realities as desired here. And that is even the least significant reason why you would do spiritual work. The more significant portion of doing spiritual work is so that you come back to the remembrance of the significance of you being and splitting yourself into this physical format. No different than a hard drive. You have to format it a certain way so that it fits whatever the use that you want. You can take an SD card from one phone and put it into a laptop or from another phone, and it would ask you to format it. That SD card is the physical soul of the equivalence of the information within it. But as you transfer it from one venue to the other, it requires formatting so that the physical space that you're now fitting that physical SD card in this case, the SD card is your body, will be formatted to the environment so that it's going to be able to read the information. That's what happens to the soul when it comes to Earth. It gets formatted to the standard version of Earth. and therefore it slowly and gradually forgets its prior formats to other substantive worlds. When you do spiritual works, what you're doing is you're taking the downside of that, a fixed format, and you're removing it and you're reconnecting it to the other platforms or the other venues that your soul exists in pieces. I'm sure at some point as a child or even as an adult, this thought has came across your mind that everyone is really the same. We're just observing things from different perspectives. Have you ever thought about it whereby you just sit there and you think, okay, if I'm here and I'm observing through this lens called my eyes, and I'm observing through this lens called my physical body, that means I'm somewhere else, and this physical body is just a projection. Then that means if this is me, others are the exact same way. And through that, the more you comprehend that, the more you realize that this thing called thought transference and this thing called thought transference, aka telepathy, is really not as foreign as you think it is, because you are already there. Telepathy, either through the transference of other people's thoughts, whereby you just feel the air in a room, or you just feel the essence of someone when they communicate with you, even from a long distance, even if you can't physically see them, or you think about someone or something and all of a sudden you see there's some correlation to it, or there's thought transference whereby you have a certain intent and other people pick it up, so and so, aka telepathy. That thing is really not as foreign as you think it is, because you and the other party and the events between you and the other party that you either creating and they're creating, you are already there. You and those other parties are already there as one. That is life. That is spirit. That is energy. The physical world is nothing but a fixed format so that your soul can express itself on the earth. The earth is the computer system. Your body is the SD card. And whenever it is that you come here a certain way, that's the format of it. But the downside to that is the penalty of not remembering certain things. But every now and then there'll be a remembrance that says, do this a certain way. Otherwise, you will suffer. Because ultimately, the goal of the reason why you're coming here is to refine your soul so that the totality of what you and everyone is combined with, that you come from as one source, can be refined itself. Because that is part of the reason why you are here. What we're about to speak of in this video is actually a no-brainer. But a no-brainer that most people don't put into consideration, either in the mundane activities or the things that are labeled as being spiritual. No matter whether people use spirituality as a form of hypocrisy to hide their filth, or just as some type of buzzword to feel like they're doing something unique compared to others, or they actually truly get it. Whatever it is, these are all no-brainers that a lot of people tend to overlook. Life is a quality that distinguishes matter. In other words, what this first few words just told you is, you and someone else can exist in the same physical space, but what you're experiencing, the reality that you're going through, are completely different. That reality you're going through is what life is. Hence, life is a quality. You and all these other people in the same store, in the same house, in the same room, might share that same physical space, but the quality of life, based on how refined your soul is, it's different. Therefore, life is a quality that distinguishes matter. Matter is the physical organism. By the way, organism is just a tool, which then brings us back to the fact that you and I are just here to refine ourselves, because we are split portions of something bigger that is one. Hence, we're organisms, we're tools, we're instruments for something. Life is a quality that distinguishes matter, that has biological processes. These biological processes are the chemical reaction. You go into a room, you hear a loud sound. Everyone stops and looks at that source of loud sound. They go into fight or flight, whether they realize it or not. Yet, you in that room think of it differently. You have certain level of deductive and inductive reasoning to realize that just because you heard that sound does not necessarily mean you have to be in panic. And even if there's some form of danger involved, you being able to think straight is what will get you out alive. Those biological processes going through your mind based on the quality and refinement of your soul compared to the rest creates biological processes such as chemicals that's released in your mind, your body, your bone marrows, your cells, your blood streams, the cortisol in your body, all those things, your heart rate, all that biological process, right? But that's dependent on the quality of the life form itself, the quality of the matter, the quality of the organism. And in each activity of how everyone reacts based on that chemical process, the biological process, they are playing their role based in the bigger picture, such as signaling and self-sustaining process. Self-sustaining process is fight or flight. Is death going to occur because of that loud bang? What's that? I've seen stuff in movies and TVs, documentaries, and recording CCTV cameras of things going bad. Am I going to be next? So you have to preserve yourself. Makes sense. From matter that does not, and is defined descriptively by capacity of homeostasis, organization, metabolism, growth, adaptation, response to stimuli, and reproduction. When a man that is quite attractive, whether socioeconomically or physically, walks in a room with a lot of women, all these things occur in their minds. When a certain type of quality of woman walks in a certain room with different type of men, it affects their minds, whether they realize it consciously or not. Whether or not that is a form of virus or that is a form of beneficial thing to them is irrelevant. It nonetheless changes them. All of these have correlation to spirituality, because wherever attention goes, wherever biological processing changes goes, energy goes also. And that energy is the substance of things. If you keep loosely giving life force and energy to things within the daily life of things, it slowly formats and reformats the quality of your spiritual capacity, which makes you vulnerable spiritually or makes you stronger spiritually, one way or another. I mentioned earlier that an organism is a tool. Just so it doesn't sound a little bit too off, let me actually show you. An organism, from ancient Greek, organon, instrument, implement, tool. An ancient Greek, ismos, is any biological living creature that functions as an individual life form. The word organism comes from the etymon of the word that means implement, instrument, or tool. So ask yourself, if you are a soul expressing itself in a physical form here, and you are a life form, and you are an organism. An organism means a tool. What tool are you? Whose tool are you? In other words, what is your purpose? That is one of the most pertinent questions that a lot of souls ask on this earth. What is their purpose? When you hear this word tool or an instrument, it sounds a bit like usury. It sounds a bit harsh. It sounds a bit as though it puts you in a subservient position. Yet, when you hear this word organism, you don't necessarily think of it as being the same thing as tool. Most people don't. It's just a more sophisticated word to say tool. So now, most people intrinsically know that they have to have a purpose. So most of us walk through life seeking for purpose. A tool is for the purpose of creating something. In other words, something that benefits others. And creation exists in a realm of godhood. Gods create. So when you look at yourself, or when you're referred to as an organism, aka a tool, I complete 40-minute videos on the Patreon page. Take care. Best of luck.